Welcome to the Tampa Bay, Florida chapter of the IIBA. Today is April 10th. This is our 159th class. Goodness gracious, my board is wonderful. My name is Thea Soren. I'm the Vice President of the Tampa Bay chapter. I'm also one of the authors of the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. I've been doing business analysis for about 30 years and been leading IIBA chapters for about half of that time. I'm one of the founders of the BA Force Multiplier movement, and among other things, I'm a business consultant, trainer, and mentor working worldwide. For those of you who are new to the IIBA, the International Institute of Business Analysis is a global governing body for business analysts with about 30,000 members, 120 chapters worldwide, and 7 certifications. We are excited about making the world better, one business project and life after another. What are the benefits of joining the IIBA? You receive training from chapters around the world, free access to 11,000 excellent books, including the IIBA's Business Analysis Body of Knowledge, webinars, and more, networking opportunities in a wide variety of formats, and discounts on certification exams. I told you that the IIBA has 120 chapters worldwide. This is the Tampa Bay, Florida chapter, and this is our board. These are the folks who work behind the scenes for your benefit. We appreciate them working so diligently to keep us going. Our chapter strives to build a thriving community of empowered business analysts. Members of the Tampa Bay, Florida chapter are not limited to those who live in the state of Florida. In fact, our members live all over the world. If you do not have an IIBA chapter, Tampa Bay can be your chapter. If you want to join us, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Why would you join our chapter? We offer multiple training sessions each week, including CBAP prep, all to benefit our participants to become better, more impactful business analysts. You can see our upcoming events at our website. Those are kept updated by Esther, Alicia, and Amarachi. Thank you, ladies. And the updates posted across LinkedIn by Cliff. Cliff, you rock. You can access over 130 hours of our events on YouTube, again, thanks to Cliff, and you can get an index of those recordings at Bob's Amazing Index at rpchurchill.com. Thank you, Bob Churchill. While you're at Bob's website, look around. He has put in hundreds of hours, making his website a trove of beneficial knowledge. As I am acknowledging the excellent work of my board members, I don't want to leave out Richard, who has handled our finances and legal filings like a champ. I also want to give a shout out to China, who recently designed certificates of appreciation for our speakers. A result of all of that work, all of those trainings have gone to these wonderful folks. These are students of those classes. They've reached out to tell us that our training was a big part of their success in achieving their certification. Many of them further demonstrate the value of that training as they've gone on to lead IIBA chapters here and around the world. I look forward to figuring out how to add the current class to this certification wall. As we continue our work for our community, we've created support for our college students, our emerging professionals. We want to help them to graduate college with not only a degree, but also a membership in a professional organization, a professional certification, and maybe more. Reach out to Kennedy Davis, our Director of Emerging Professionals, for more information. Those of you who live in Florida, if you wish to meet with other business analysts in real life, reach out to me so we can begin a chapter branch near you. In working to enlarge the education of our community, we've partnered with several organizations to get the bleeding edge information to you. Our number one partner group is you, the IIBA members and those who participate in our chapter. We are striving to post all of our partner association events on our Tampa Bay website event calendar, so check us out there. Benefits of our associations include discounts to our participants. Watermark Learning has given us a 40% discount if you're using this code. Adaptive US offers a 20% discount on all of their live classes and on-demand courses, excluding the IIBA exam vouchers. And if you plan to attend Project Summit Business Analysis World in Orlando, May 5th through 7th, here's a 10% discount for those participants. And while you're there, stop by and give a shout out to Robert and Seamus, who will be manning our IIBA Tampa Bay booth. Those of you who are interested in the European Business Analysis Day, May 14th, 15th, and 16th, we have a 10% discount because of our association with the BA Force Multipliers. Reach out to me and I'll give you those links. We know that there are jobs out there, and we know where the talent is at. Reach out to me and I'll play matchmaker to get qualified individuals onto your desk. To do something tangible to help our community find the jobs, I created an open group on LinkedIn. I post jobs here daily from my network of 15,000 connections as well as emails. You are invited to add your jobs as well as Bruce if you wish. Next week, you can join us for the best-selling author Howard Podeswa as he walks us through the essence of story mapping and agile planning to drive value delivery and validated learning. And looking far ahead, in September and October, we'll be spending those 8 weeks working on a real project, walking through the software development lifecycle, software development in an agile format. We're asking participants to commit to attending all 8 weeks, as each will have a role throughout that project. Now for our presentation. I'm so excited to talk about the current job market with these experienced BA recruiters, recruiting from 4 different recruiting companies. The questions we'll be covering: what are the trends in the current job market? What skills are in demand now and in the future? How do we best position ourselves for the next opportunities, and what mistakes should we avoid? Today we have Allison, Tracy, Jason, and Wendy. I'm going to start over. Allison, Tracy, Jason, and Mindy from across the United States and Canada. Mindy Menard is a business development manager for Page Technology and hails out of Kansas City, right in the center of the United States. Mindy is an accomplished IT professional, having been an IT project manager, certified Scrum Master, and more. She has 15 years experience in IT staffing. Jason is an account manager for Systemics out of Toronto, Canada. Jason has been placing business analysts across industries for 25 years, starting with DeVry University BA graduates in 1999. Jason works with business analysts seeking growth opportunities every semester at the University of Toronto through his postgraduate business analysis certificate program. Systemics Consulting Group is a Canadian-owned 100 million US company, providing IT consulting solutions and resourcing all over Canada, the US, UK, and Europe for multiple offices, not the one in Tampa Bay yet. Jason reports directly to the ownership in the head office in suburban Toronto. Tracy Mitchell is a talent advisor and senior technical recruiter for Tricom Technical Services based in Kansas City. Tracy enjoys nurturing relationships to identify high-quality talent and matching candidates with their dream roles. As a talent advisor for Tricom, she loves getting to help people further their careers and finding the perfect match for them. Allison Voss is the Director of Recruiting for Moonshot Solutions in the Kansas City area. Allison has been in the staffing industry for 15 years after starting her own IT staffing firm in 2013. Moonshot Solutions is a security-led full-service partner to many customers where they manage and secure their IT environments, as well as supporting their hiring and onboarding needs. They've expanded their IT staffing practices, adding dedicated accounting and finance team, as well as an engineering team. So these are our recruiters. Let's get started with the panel discussion. Question 1, I'm going to start this with Jason from Systemics. Jason, what trends are you seeing in the current job market in regards to the BA role?
Thanks, Thea. First of all, thanks to everyone else as well, and I'll try and be cognizant of everyone's time here and not blather on too long. But really, we're paying attention to these trends pretty much across the board because, as you can all imagine, it's a pretty fraught time out there. Certainly, we've been seeing layoffs really across the board from the beginning of the year. And so to try and nail down trends, I would say it's kind of atypical. This is a unique time where I think there's a great deal of uncertainty. And as a result, it makes the hiring market a bit of a paradox. You've got a number of projects that are ongoing, which are midstream or late stream, which are still requiring resourcing and still requiring great expertise. because some of these things are really strategically very important to the organizations which we're working with. So there are still quite a few opportunities out there. Just as a quick aside here, I mean, to give you an idea, in the Toronto area, it's about 6 million people here. It's a very large city, fourth largest in North America. We have currently, where we are, as an example, about 250 open BA roles as I took a quick look across LinkedIn today. And anecdotally, that kind of feels about right. Taking a look in the Tampa area, it's just shy of 400. I mean, that's quite robust. I was really surprised to see the number of openings in and around the Florida area, which speaks to really the forgiving business rules in and around Florida's approach to policy. You're not having headquarters moving away because of disadvantageous tax rules, and really you're open for business, and it reflects because a lot of head offices and a lot of projects are being kicked off and kept going in the Florida market. So that's good news. Now, obviously, with as much remote opportunity as there is, location doesn't necessarily matter as much, but I think we've all been seeing a real trend towards hybridization again, or back to on-premise. We're definitely seeing that across the market as well. So 2-3 times a week, get back in the office, start doing some of those face-to-face water cooler talks. I think we can all agree some of the wheels are easier to grease when you're face-to-face as opposed to doing this all the time. So you're definitely seeing that across the board as companies are starting to push that as more of a trend that we're seeing across the market as well. With the layoffs and with the uncertainty, we're not seeing a great deal of permanent full-time positions, greater reliance on contract, potential contract into perm as well. And again, as I say, tailing end of those projects, as most projects, you're not seeing a lot of those kicked off right now, given the uncertainty around what's happening in trade, what's happening within governments. And as a result, until there's more certainty, I think you're going to see a lot of things held off like that. One of the final things I'll say before I hand it off is really kind of pockets of good, solid requirements still out there. Seeing it in the fintech industries for sure. Seeing it still in insurance areas where there's still quite a bit of strong hiring. Government to some extent, probably not quite as much. But again, maybe the biggest issue here is the trend is in and around experts. These are the people that are always in demand. It almost doesn't matter whether or not there are recessionary forces at play. If you're really in a particular domain, if you have real specific industry knowledge, then there are still a great deal of opportunities out there that we're seeing, just maybe not quite as many as we've seen in the past.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Mindy, with Tricom, what are you seeing?
Well, I'm with Page Technologies.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So I don't want to be redundant for what Jason said, but I had actually noted a couple of those items before we started. But on top of that, I'm seeing from a business development side as well that positions that we have are very specific, more of a niche skill set, which, I do agree, in this market, positions are pretty scarce. Unfortunately, they do seem to be turning around a little bit. I'm seeing an uptick just a little bit, but I on the other hand am seeing more on the perm side for some of the opportunities that we have. But within those perm skill sets, they're very niche skill sets. They're very specific, and managers seem to be really honing in on that, and which makes us be more specific within a resume as well. We are also seeing, much like Jason said, some more return to work, whether that be a hybrid or more return to work. I think it seems to be a trend that we're going to. I don't know how that's going to be received for a lot of not just BAs but everybody out there, but that does seem definitely like a trend that we're seeing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next question. What skills are you currently seeing demand for, and what skills do you see having increased demand in the future? Tracy with Tricom.
Hi, thanks for having us. I would say specifically, we're seeing as kind of to mirror what Mindy just said, more specific skill sets that are being driven. And I would say AI is something that's very, very popular right now, and something that's, faster, higher quality documentation, specific to like, I want to be with Salesforce experience, more data driven roles. Definitely I'm seeing that where they're coupled more, where you used to have a data analyst that would do the, the SQL, things like that, the reporting. And now we're seeing more of a mixture of those two roles combined, at least from what we're seeing in the market right now. Power BI, having those skill sets. Again, Salesforce is a huge one. AI, creating dashboards, something that's, used to just be, at least when I first started, you were, writing requirements and, talking to the business side, kind of being that liaison right underneath the project manager. Now we're seeing a little bit more of, as Mindy said, kind of defined, hey, here's what we want you to do, more specific, or in that line of business, where before it was, I really want a strong BA, and now it's, I want a strong BA that has insurance background. So it's being more specific to the industry that we're definitely recruiting for.
Okay, so Tracy, if there were two skills that you would say it would be valuable to go learn, would it be a Salesforce certification, SQL, Power BI, a specific Agile cert?
I would say Power BI for sure. As far as the reporting, yeah, that would be my probably number one. I see a lot of Salesforce here recently. I don't know. I'm gonna maybe pass that off to one of my other members to see if they have a
Okay.
secondary that they would suggest.
Okay. Allison, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tracy, you nailed it, right? I have a lot of the exact same thoughts there, to be honest with you. And it's like, if you think about it, organizations anymore are becoming, they're just widely becoming more tech savvy, right? More data driven, just as a whole, So, again, to echo what Tracy had already said, is you have what used to be pretty defined business analyst roles. And now it's, think about a business analyst now, they're just more ingrained, with the product owners as a whole, right? So where you used to think, business analysts, you think kind of documentation, right? And that was really in a nutshell. But now it's like you have more of that crossover of the BAs are doing stand-ups and backlog groomings and things of that nature, to where, it wasn't always the case. And I think that, it's almost fairly common now to where you'll have, increasingly, I guess, in demand, I should say, as a business analyst with those, like you said, the data skills. So whether it's SQL for query writing, whether it's Power BI for report, whatever it may be, I think you nailed it with the Power BI for certain. I also think that, we're getting a lot more of like the ERP, kind of the enterprise level of, if they're familiar with ERP systems or SAP or Oracle or whatever it may be, there's a variety of them, but I think that's becoming increasingly more common, So I think that being more tech savvy, more, familiar with data, I think being able to, again, just utilize the tools. You don't have to be an expert, but you got to be able to write queries, and you've got to be able to, again, dashboards and things of that nature is almost more as a must have anymore, where it used to be something that was like, it set you apart, And I would say even here in Kansas City specifically, think about like the healthcare IT market here in Kansas City, so the industry for healthcare IT is in Kansas City is, or even like logistics lately in Kansas City. So you think about the ERP systems or the HIPAA and things of that nature, that if you're BA and you worked on some of those projects or some of those technologies, it's going to set you apart. Absolutely. But it's almost like not a must have, but it's getting increasingly more common to have that, like hybrid experience.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that if we do have experience in those things, we need to be sure that they're on our resume so that
Absolutely right.
they can be seen.
Yep.
Okay, I have a question. We're talking Power BI. Are you seeing any requests for MS Fabric? Is that too new?
I
I
would
am
say,
not.
Haven't
Yeah,
really
Okay.
seen that.
Really, it's no longer Power BI. That's what I was trying to say is working for a Microsoft partner, it's Microsoft Fabric. Fabric is comprised of Power BI, semantics, Azure Data Factory. It includes the Power pipelines and data warehouses. It's no longer really called Power BI by Microsoft. It's called Microsoft Fabric, which comprises all those tools.
Yeah. They may
That's all
just
I was
call it
trying to
Fabric.
say. Yeah,
So that's
Fabric
something
now
to
is the new
inform-
buzzword, not Power BI.
Now you know. Okay. Do you see more demand for Power BI, or is Tableau also valuable to have?
I was going to jump in with that one, Tableau as well, for sure. That's
Okay.
definitely out there. That's another one. As well, I might add, maybe some Python, maybe some R. If you're playing around in the data visualization and analytics place, that's a really good place to play right now. Seeing an advent of more programs that are coming out that you can take as a postgraduate certificate or something like that. Really get yourself involved in that because it is a huge thrust. And certainly, again, Salesforce, no question. Definitely seeing that. And then on the documentation side, certainly. But let's not forget cybersecurity. I mean, that's another area as well. Hasn't been mentioned yet. Also one that really does matter. If you've got any idea what's going on in that area, that's going to help you a great deal as well in your BA search. And just one final thing I wanted to mention, and I think, Allison, you put your finger on it perfectly. It is a much more technical role. Going way back, it would have turned most of the positions that we work on now more as a business systems analyst type of role. But it really has become more of a general BA rule as far as this goes. So very little in the way of non-technical, process-oriented only BAs. You almost always have to have some technical jam behind you.
Absolutely.
Are there specific certifications that you can cite that it's like if you were going to go get one certification, what would each of you suggest that people look at?
Probably Agile.
I'm partial to Agile as well. I think that is key for sure.
Okay. Allison?
I mean, I still think it's the certified business analyst, the CBAP or whatever. I think that's what's really going to stand out. Again, I'm not saying that there's the Agile or the Scrum, which is a little more product owner based.
Okay. And Tracy?
I would say probably the Agile as well, just because
Okay.
they are doing a lot more, like Jason, I believe, or I can't remember who said it, but more of the stand-ups and just being knowledgeable in that area.
So you're seeing business analysts that are also doing basic Scrum Master or Agile coaching. You're seeing business analysts that are also being asked to do data analytics or data visualization. Is that summarize everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said you're seeing a lot of Salesforce. Are you seeing a lot of need for M365 Dynamics or Azure?
I think there's a lot of companies that are using, the Azure DevOps as, a tracking or project, management tool for sure. It's a pretty common now skill set to have as a BA.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. And you said that people are wanting AI. Are there specific certifications that employers are looking for, or is it just we know something about AI?
I'd say it's probably a little bit more about prompt engineering than certifications. It's still kind of early days. I don't think it's really formalized well enough. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't even know if there is, let's say, for example, a Copilot certification. I don't know. I certainly haven't seen it if it's out there. But
There
prompt
are
engineering is something
badges
that's
through
mattered.
LinkedIn for Copilot.
They also
And
have
LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, so a lot of them are very Microsoft specific.
they have skills learning too that you can get certified in with OpenAI.
Okay. So let's talk about AI for a second, recruiters. If someone said that they wanted someone with AI experience or prompt engineering, how would you want the candidate to be able to demonstrate it, or do you want the portfolio? What do you want to be able to say they have it? How would they show that to you?
I mean, I think it's, again, to echo kind of what's already been said, is AI is, yes, it's not brand new. It's been around for a while, but the reality of it is while it was around, everybody was halfway in, half out. A lot of people still are half in, half out, right? So you're either you're leery for this reason, you don't know if it's secure for that reason, where's the information coming from, you know? So I think, to be honest, is again, is just really for a business analyst, if it was me, right, you just want to get involved with any projects that you can that are AI, you know, savvy or aware, and just position yourself to say, you know, nobody has to be an expert in it. Nobody's expecting anybody to be an expert in it. But if you can position yourself to say that you're AI familiar, AI aware, or you know, that you've used certain AI tools to do X, Y, and Z. You know, I think that if you present that you're not scared of it, you know, because there's a lot of people afraid, raising my hand, right? I'm not an AI cheerleader, I'll admit it. I think there's a lot of advantages to it, and I think there's a lot of scariness to it, you know, so I'm not one that's going to jump on the AI bandwagon. I'm just not, right? But I think that if you can, you know, get yourself brushed up, whether it's Copilot, whatever they may be, right? And you can at least position yourself to have the conversation with said, you know, hiring manager, or position yourself to market yourself to say, hey, I'm familiar with it. I've used it. I'm not an expert, but let's talk about it. You know, I think that's also just, you know, that's really all anybody can expect at this point. You know, it's still not around long enough for anybody to say that they're a true SME.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would you look for on a resume that said this person has some experience?
I worked on projects with large language models, for example. You know, organizations are playing around with that. So if you're somewhat adjacent to that, I mean, if you figure on this, AI is kind of like this huge potential threat, right? Even to the potential existence of BAs. And let's be perfectly honest, maybe to the potential existence of recruiters. We're all kind of in the same boat as far as that goes, not really know how to wrestle with that. But meanwhile, we're certainly using it in our organization to make our processes better, see how we can make our business more efficient. And I think a lot of organizations are doing that. So if you're in a current role and your organization is working on some large language model exploration, you know, try and get in on that. LLMs, certainly something we're looking for on resumes in and when we're seeking skills like that. And again, perfect point, Allison. No one's an expert. Nobody. If they say they are, they're lying. We're all really just trying to figure it out. So just try and be close to it and play around with it. When we say prompt engineering, really, what are we talking about? You're throwing stuff at it to get it to give you what you need. So if you played around with it somewhat, that's prompt engineering. Feel free to go ahead and say so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second all that Jason just said, but even from the business development side, I'm not afraid to go to a client for something specific as AI, just because, like we said, they're half in, they're half out. What specifically are you looking for? What, you know, educate me on what you need to see. I think that when you get to a resume and an interview perspective, you know, they're going to be able to tell if they truly do have this experience or not. But I think hearing it directly from a specific hiring manager, what their beliefs are, you know, in AI, you know, what their background is. There's nothing wrong with asking them, you know, hey, what do you expect to see? Help me help you here.
Okay. Okay. Tracy, do you have a comment on that one?
I agree with everyone. I feel like I just be echoing everyone's comments.
Okay.
And you know, I will say definitely do play around with it, whether you're just like Jason was kind of saying, putting things in and, you know, figuring out what comes out, or if it can help you in any way with your daily activities, use it, utilize it.
Right. Seamus has a specific question about AI. I'm going to ask him to come off mute and ask it himself, because he's talking about stuff I don't know what he's talking about.
So I know I've been seeing a lot more trends of, you know, different companies using things called like Zapier, Make, N89. I don't know if have you all heard any of those? These are like automation platforms. I was kind of curious to see like doing projects within those areas we're using, you know, prompting, engineering, and like, you know, freelancing for different clients. Would that be something, for instance, you know, recruiters will look for as they have experience in AI or similar, you know, similar set?
It sounds like that hasn't hit the recruiter's list yet.
Make a little bit, but I mean, maybe even a little bit more so on the RPA side of things. Robotic process automation, if you haven't really engaged with that individually. Maybe more in that area, but again, that's getting really technical typically, right?
Mhm.
Almost out of the purview of your BA. And understanding potentially would probably all we'd be looking for typically around that.
Mhm.
Okay. You had mentioned cybersecurity. Is there a specific certification or emphasis you're seeing companies needing out there? Are they looking for specific certs?
Oh, sorry, I'm jumping right in on that one, but I guess it was my point. So
Yeah.
to just kind of throw in on that one. Yeah, I mean, you could take a look at the CompTIA side of things. Cybersecurity analyst, there's one there. You could take a look at that certification. It's a CYSA plus. If you're in the penetration testing, you're probably not going to get into that too much on the BA side of things. Maybe even just a security plus. And even then, maybe not necessarily a certification, a specific certification that you're passing a test for, but if you're taking potentially a certificate, something like that, that's something that's also of great value. If you're taking that maybe at a local college, something along those lines, or if an organization like the IIBA starts to throw some things at it like that as well. I mean, you get into some of the other ones like the CISM and the CISA and so on, but these are really security professionals, the information security manager and the auditor kind of ones. Again, you're kind of getting out of the BA skill sets with those, but those are some of those that you probably want to look at. The CompTIA ones are probably a little bit easier to get at than some of the others.
I would say definitely to try to highlight any security projects that they've worked on too, and just really hone in on what they did for that specific project and how they were a part of it.
Okay. Okay. Let's go on to the third question. As business analysts or professionals in the industry that we can be called so many different things because we've done so many different things, how do we best position ourselves to be easily placed for the next opportunity? And what mistakes are y'all seeing that we should avoid? Let's start with Allison with Moonshot Solutions.
Oh, what a loaded question. This could go, we could have this whole, hour conversation. No, I think it's, while this is probably going to sound like the most obvious answer there is out there, I think a lot of times, or it happens far too often, is somebody's in a role and they get fed up for whatever reason, something happens, or they want more money or whatever it may be, right? And they just start blasting resumes, firing resumes out to anything, everything they see. And it is what it is. We've all kind of been in hasty situations. But I think before you can even do that, you have to really take a step back and like, what is it that you want? Why are you looking? What do you want to do? If you're a BA and you're happy, but you might want something more, what does that look like? Do you want to get more technical? Do you want to, so I think before you can even market yourself to position yourself, I guess I should say, for the next opportunity, you have to really take a step back. And again, I know it sounds obvious, but like, what does that next opportunity look like for you? And then you take the step of, it's no secret, right, that 99.99% of job searching and networking and everything happens on LinkedIn. So what does your LinkedIn profile look like? What is it? Is it really, what does it say about you? I think once you identify kind of that opportunity that you want to get, and then you make sure your LinkedIn profile, right, matches it. So what does your headline say? Is it just a headline? Does it just say your name? Is it your summary or your about us section? That's your pitch. That's your opportunity to sell yourself it's your elevator speech. It's your quick little, what does it say? Who are you? Why are you different? What do you want to do? You can drop in a couple of the nuggets like we talked about, like, have you worked on AI, or are you familiar with AI tools? Have you worked on a cybersecurity project? You've got a window there to really showcase, depending on where you want to go and what you want to do. That's what you need to add in, and again, regarding LinkedIn, your skills, the skills, the list of skills, buzzwords are how recruiters find you, right? It's AI, we're going to put in buzzwords, and it's the profiles that have those buzzwords on it are going to generate, for us to look at. So does your profile have enough of the buzzwords on it? Will you populate in a recruiter search based on the job that you want? Obviously don't falsify it and say you have something that you don't, but I think it's, you know, are the buzzwords in the experience sections of the job. You know, don't just add that you've had this skill. Well, you got a couple bullets of each one. Throw something in there of how you've used that or what you want to do, you know. So I think once you get LinkedIn profile is a number one. It's you got to have a good LinkedIn profile, you know. And then I think once you have that, you know, then it's like be active on LinkedIn. Don't just sit there and wait for somebody to come to you all the time. Yes, it does happen and it could happen, but you know, be active. Or, you know, heck, I reach out to people that I've used to work with in the past all the time. You know, it's like, hey, even if it's just a networking conversation, or maybe you've had something change and now you want to pivot into something, or you've, you know, you worked with Thea and I worked together in the past, and I see now that she's at XYZ company, or she might know somebody at XYZ company, which is what I'm interested in, you know. So you reach out and you network and you know, so I think positioning yourself is it's really got to make sure what you look like first, you know, and that your own brand. And I think that starts with what are you looking for? What does your LinkedIn profile say about you, you know, and then yeah, just be active. That's kind of where follow the companies you want to, that you're interested in, you know, join the groups, join sessions like tonight, you know, there's all kinds of networking groups and local ones that you can go in person. They meet up for, you know, meetups and whatnot. There's virtual, there's, you know, all kinds. The very last thing I'll say is LinkedIn's not the only social media out there. So don't forget about that. The internet holds things. So if you're potentially looking or interested in a new opportunity, you may want to pay attention to what else you got on your Facebook page or whatever else is out there, you know, because LinkedIn's not the only social media that a company is going to look at or potentially base a hiring decision off of, you know. So again, brand yourself, position yourself for the next opportunity.
Thank you, Allison. Thank
Yeah.
you. Mindy with Page Tech, what do you think?
Yes, so that was all really good, Allison. I think that also, you know, taking a step back as a BA, specifically a BA, you know, looking for a next role, you know, in what you want to do, but also, you know, depending on the company that you're coming from, some of them may have true agile teams where they have product owners and scrum masters and, you know, true dedicated roles, a BA and a QA. And like I said, and you know, the PM or the scrum master facilitates those meetings, but also if you've stepped in, you know, let's say you work for a smaller organization, or maybe they're not, you know, as agile focused, and you've had to, you know, act as a product owner, you know, you've done testing, you know, you've stepped in when a tester is gone, or, you know, when you're finished or you're wrapping up a sprint and testing needs help, you know, do you step in and do you help test? You know, those are all very specific things that you can word into a resume, but I do think it does go into, you know, do you want to be a multifaceted BA, or do you want to be pigeonholed into, you know, one specific role? But that's also a catch-22. I think that in the economy right now, in the, you know, I think that it's no secret that we're all low on job postings right now. You know, you also don't want to pigeonhole yourself at the same time. So, you know, being open-minded and being very specific on your own resume in the roles that you have done, I think, and not just what your team has done, but what you specifically have done. You know, you tested at the end of a sprint, you know, you facilitated scrum meetings. That I think that all ties in together, but you have to be that specific on your resume too, when you figure out what type or what you want in your next BA role.
Okay, thank you, Mindy.
Sure.
Tracy with Tricom, what do you think?
Both great points for sure. I would just say, kind of to expand on what Mindy said, just details on your resume, details. You know, I see a lot of sometimes people just copying and pasting, like, this is what I did at this job, and then it's the same exact thing at the, you know, the previous job. And you probably did some things that were similar, but not exactly, right? I mean, so just really detail out any specific experiences you've had, anything you've worked on, just kind of like what Mindy was saying, just be really specific, because it does make you stand out. It does make you, and I notice that, managers notice that. It's like, well, did they just copy and paste it? You know, they're noticing that you're not taking the time to put forth effort into that. And so how are you going to do that in your day-to-day job? So that would be my suggestion. And kind of back to Allison's point, really try to figure out what you want to do and where your triggers are. If it's money, if it's, you know, the industry, if it's, you know, progression within the organization, and really try to target those companies that are going to align with what you're looking for moving forward.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Jason, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. Maybe a couple of things, and really it's all been said. So maybe kind of a rephrasing in and around intentionality. You need to be intentional with what you're doing. And this is, I think, what Allison kind of led with. Take a step back, understand what you want. And it's really important that when you're positioning yourself, you're clear about what you want, and that your LinkedIn and your resume are geared towards that. So really take the time when you have specific targets to tailor your application, your resume, your conversation around that kind of thing. Another really important piece that I know I'm always looking for when I'm looking for the right kind of people, it's to lead with outcomes and to be able to quantify what you've done. Numbers, not just the description of what you've done. Maybe now when I'm talking about intentionality, number one, present your experience in a way that is useful to the place you're applying to, right? Rephrase in such a way that it's going to make sense for that industry, that domain. If you've been working in one place, you have an understanding of what the new place might be. Make sure you're talking in their language. Secondly, you want to talk about how you have impacted, let's say, organizational efficiency, saved X number of dollars for company ABC. These are powerful. We look for these things because they're results. And when people are hiring, they're looking for that kind of thing. So very quickly, I would say that. Be intentional. And secondly, quantify as much as you can with each individual engagement that you've been on, because that really does show a hiring manager that you get things done and they see value in what you've done. And maybe just the final point, and we've touched upon it, network, network, network. People will want to help you. You have to be clear with people if you're looking, because hiring is a trust game. And someone is going to hire someone that is referred by someone they trust because there's a higher level there automatically than someone who's just applied somewhere with just a piece of paper, or you're just a LinkedIn person. So try and build that bridge as much as you can. As much trust or knowledge of you as you can build. Referrals are the best way, the better your chances of getting the next thing.
Okay, very good. We've got some questions in the chat. I'm just going to walk through them. If someone's looking for an entry-level role and they have some of the skill sets you mentioned, but they lack specific domain knowledge, how do they overcome that? That doesn't sound like it's going to be an easy thing to do. How about knowledge of an adjacent industry, or volunteering for something that can get them some of the exposure and knowledge that they need? Would that work?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I could be off a little bit here, but I think no matter what, right, there's always going to be the core skills that for a business analyst. You know, we've talked about how things are changing and how trends and emerging technologies and AI and all of that stuff, right? But I think when you look at like the core deep down of a business analyst, there's certain things that are never going to change. And I think that those skills it's always, you got to be a good communicator. You got to be, documentation, verbal, so the core skills to a BA, that's never going to change. No matter what industry you're in, no matter what technology they use, no matter if they're archaic in technology and it's brutal, or if they're cutting edge in technology, right? You're still going to have requirements gathering. You're still going to have communication. You're still going to facilitate workshops to, some of those things. So I think, going into it as potentially an entry level, or you don't have the skills, well, let's find out what relates to that. Like, give me an example of something you've done to show you got communication skills. Have you ever led a meeting, whether it's business analyst or not, or, like, have you been a technical writer, document, whatever it may be. So I think that when you're trying to get your foot in the door, potentially I would just suggest, like, and it's been talked about earlier, but find a way to use the experience that you've done and relate it to this job. You know, it's not going to be spot on, but again, if you can show that you've have familiar experience and that you want to do it, you know, wanting the job, improving yourself is half the battle, you know, so.
Very good. Thank you, Allison.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. What would you suggest for someone who's been in a specific industry for a while and is thinking about making a transition to a different industry? What's the best way to make that move? Mindy, do you have any ideas?
Don't do it. No.
Okay.
I'm joking. But no, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to rely on one of the other experts for this.
Hey, Tracy, what do you think?
Honestly, I mean, I somewhat agree with Mindy. You know, it's kind of a critical time right now, and
Yeah,
making that
don't move.
transition. They're just talking about a different type of industry, not a different role, correct? I would assume.
That's
I mean,
what it
you're just
says.
gonna have to try and see what happens. I mean, and see if you can
Yeah.
get into, you know, my suggestion would be to get into something that's sustainable. Oh, excuse me. I mean, a healthcare or something of that nature that maybe isn't going to go away because all, you know, of all the closings and layoffs we're seeing, and that's not just in certain areas. It could be in healthcare as well, but something that definitely is sustainable. I would try to focus on if you're going to transition into something new.
Okay. Okay. I don't have the industry they're coming from, the industry they're going to, so I can't give you specifics.
Sure.
Jason, do you have any other suggestions on that one?
Yeah, maybe a little bit here. And again, it's relying on your network again. I'm going to go back to that trust story. So let me share an anecdote maybe. I've got a really good friend who's currently looking for a role. He's coming out of the automotive sector. He wants to make a move into the healthcare sector. And, you know, when you look at his resume, that's not a natural fit necessarily. But he made an application to an organization wherein I know someone that runs talent acquisition. So I said, no worries, mate. Let me give her a quick shout. I'll just make sure that she gets eyes on your resume, whether or not it's another fit, whether or not they choose to move forward. He let me know he was looking to make that change. I then had a contact. I did something on his behalf to get eyes on his resume. That's all. I mean, also to be perfectly clear, said this is, I'm not wearing my recruiting hat when I was doing this. This is just me trying to help a friend. And sure enough, she got her eyes on it. He got a quick interview out of it. Wasn't a good fit, but that's the kind of thing that's going to help bridge that gap when you go from one thing into another. So I'd suggest something like that. Again, try and reach out, see who you know in this world, in this domain that you're not in yet. See if there are any connections. Reach out. Be clear. Be intentional. Let them know you want to do it, and then hopefully they're going to be able to give you a hand.
Okay. Good tactics there. Okay, whenever we're applying for different BA roles, do you as a recruiter want to hear, I'm coming in as a BA, but I really want to be a product owner. What is your reaction whenever you hear that?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Tracy. I was going to say it depends on the organization that you're going to, or maybe even came from, in the fact that, you know, what kind of a dedicated team do they have? You know, if it's a company that has product owners, scrum masters, BAs, QAs, even technical trainers, that sort of thing, where they're dedicated, you know, people in the employees in those roles, they might be fearful that you're coming in and either taking over their role, but also it could also go back to one of our previous questions on, you know, how do you, if you want to learn something else, you know, you could use it as a mentorship, but I go back and forth on that one, to be honest.
Okay. Jason, you look like you had a reaction to that question.
If I can make something up for you, no problem.
Oh, no. I want
I'm kidding.
sincerity here.
No, for real. I'd say you have to be careful about your audience. Certainly when I'm going to speak for those of us here on the agency side, if I'm speaking with someone and they're talking about a different position other than the one that I'm recruiting for, that's probably not an awesome thing, right? We're going to try and find somebody that's looking for that specific role. Now, if you're talking to talent acquisition at a specific organization and they're there to help grow their team and they want to talk a little bit about the path and BA can move into product owner, that makes a lot more sense. And if we're working maybe on a perm role, that would make more sense. But if you're kind of doing a contract or your own project, I don't know. That's probably not a great move. Maybe that's a good answer to a question like, where do you see yourself in 5 years kind of thing? Probably the best way to phrase it, as opposed to, you know, kind of bombing that out in an initial interview, would be my thought.
So would you think that the person might not be happy at that role and might jump ship because that's not really what they wanted? They just took it because they had it?
Kind of hitting it. Yeah. I think you're saying it.
Yeah.
I agree
You
with
got to be
all,
careful with your messaging there.
Yeah. Tracy.
I agree with all those things, but from an agency perspective, I always have those questions like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, you know, like, what do you want to do in a couple years? You know, what is your path progression? And, you know, I mean, Thea, you know, prime example, we talked about this, you know, before line. I placed her 20 years ago, and she's evolved, you know, we both have, obviously, you know, in our careers. So, you know, just building those relationships and knowing where those people do want to be long term, I think is also valuable too. So I agree with all those points too. If I'm placing someone in that position, I want them to stay in that position and do what they're supposed to be doing, but knowing what they're looking for long term, but just directly applying, probably like Jason said, 5-year goals where you maybe put that in there or something like that.
Okay. We're down to our last few minutes and I've got some questions I just want to get real fast answers for. How long should your resume be? Is there a suggested limit anymore? Because you want to get all the words on there.
Right.
So as long as it needs to be?
Yeah.
How far back should it go?
I usually say 15.
Yeah.
15 years?
15.
Yeah.
10 to 15
Okay.
is what
10,
I usually
15.
say.
And what do you think about putting your graduation year on your resume?
No.
Don't
Not
do it.
necessary.
Don't do it. Okay. All right.
Nope.
What makes the resume stand out that would really catch your eye? Is it true that you only look at the first third of the first page and if that doesn't catch you, you don't go further?
I think they say that I can't, if you guys can correct me because I can't remember the exact seconds, but it's like 7 seconds or something that a hiring manager and a recruiter will look, or I don't even know if that is 7 seconds, to be honest with you. It's so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, you need to have those words and those key kind of buzzes to catch somebody's eye to make them want to read more deep into it or have a conversation. My opinion.
Okay. Jason?
Yeah. Have it in the summary at the beginning. Have your technical summary at the top where you have the laundry list of things that you do, and then repeat those things through the body of each engagement, because the repetition is one thing, and then how you've used it again. Can you quantify it? That's what stands out for me.
But not copying exactly the same verbiage.
No,
Rephrase.
context. Context is very, very important.
Okay. Allison.
I agree.
What catches you? Okay. Everyone is using the automatic systems, right? That check, and you probably don't even get the resume unless it says that it has the right words on it. Is that true?
I mean, yeah, that's kind of the running, you know, theory is like, you know, it goes in that cyber black hole, you know, and that's if you go back to earlier on in the conversation, it's like that's kind of what we were talking about is like if you're not intentional about it, you know, it's you blasting out resumes without really thinking about it, you know, and buzzwords are important, then unfortunately, and you might be the most qualified, but you've got 20 other people that applied the same time you did, and I'm going to put those first. I'm at least going to review those resumes before I review yours, you know,
Right.
just
Okay.
being honest.
Those systems have evolved. Is there anything that they can't read? There was a time that they couldn't read tables, so we wouldn't put tables in our resume. Is there anything they can't read now?
I don't
They
think
can
so.
read everything?
I think they're picking it all up now. Again, you're seeing AI used at this point. It's not just algorithms anymore. You're getting a more intelligent review of your resume.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we've come down to our last questions. I so much appreciate you guys. Allison, Tracy, Jason, and Mindy, this has been so valuable, and I'm sure that we'll have more conversations for y'all finding people or me sending people or these folks that are listening, participating in your job searches. I'm looking forward to those in the future. Next week, we have Howard Podiswa. He is coming for our 160th class on April 17th. He is a best-selling author of 4 different books. Most of these are standards for the business analyst, and he's going to talk about prioritization. So I look forward to seeing y'all then. Thank you again to our recruiters that have participated. You have brought value to us, and hopefully we can bring some value to you as well. Okay, guys.
Thank you
I'll
for
talk
having
to you
us.
next week.
For having us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You guys, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.